Hi boys and girls, it's Miss Rossi. Today we are going to create a picture of our hand using different patterns. Let's get started. What you will be needing today is a piece of paper, a pencil, an eraser, something to trace your drawing with. I'm going to use a Sharpie, but you can use a dark colored crayon or any kind of marker. And we're going to need something to color our picture in with. I'm going to use crayons today, but you can use markers, colored pencils, or whatever else you have at home. So we're going to create a drawing of our hand today, and we're going to fill in our drawing with all different kinds of patterns. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take my piece of paper out of my notebook. So on my piece of paper, I'm going to trace my hand right in the middle of my paper. I'm going to spread out my fingers so while I'm tracing, I can get my pencil in between all of those spaces, and I'm just going around following my hand with my pencil to trace it. Now, I don't need my arm today, so I'm just going to connect the bottom of my hand by making a curved line to connect the side of my hand where my thumb is with the side of my hand where my pinky is. Now that I have my hand drawn in pencil, I'm going to take my piece of paper and I want to split my paper into a couple different sections. So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to fold my paper in half. So I folded the left and the right sides of my paper together. So I get a nice long piece. I'm opening it back up and I'm going to fold it in half again the opposite direction. So I'm folding the top and the bottom of my paper in half too. So now that I folded my paper 2 times, when I open it up, I'm going to get 4 different boxes. With my pencil, I'm just going to trace those folded lines that I just made so I can see them a little bit better. So I'm going to have one line going from the top of my paper all the way to the bottom, cutting it in half. And I'm going to have another line going from the left to the right side of my paper, also cutting my paper in half. Now I'm going to take my marker, or whatever you're using to trace at home, and I'm just going to trace my hand and both of these lines so I can see them a little bit better. Like I said, if you don't have a Sharpie, you can use a crayon, a colored pencil, any kind of marker, or any other supply you have at home to trace with. So I'm tracing my lines, and then I'm going to trace my hand. After tracing my pencil lines with my Sharpie marker, I went in with my eraser and I erased any pencil lines that I could still see. Now I'm ready to start adding some patterns. I have 4 different boxes, each with a piece of my hand. In each of these boxes, I'm going to do a different pattern inside my hand and in the background. So at the end, I will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different patterns on my paper. Now a pattern is when you repeat shapes, lines, and colors to create a design. So you can create any kinds of patterns you would like. You can draw your patterns with your pencil first and color them in afterwards, or you can just draw your patterns directly with your crayons or markers or colored pencils or whatever you're using to color your picture in. So in my first pattern, I'm going to do 2 different shapes. So I'm doing clouds and suns, and I am just going to alternate those. So I'm going cloud, sun, cloud, and then the same thing below, so sun, cloud, sun, to fill up my background. Now I don't want my background pattern to go inside my hand, so if I touch the hand line, that's where that shape is going to stop. It is not going to go through my hand because I'm going to add different patterns in there. So now I can continue my pattern again. So since I ended with sun, I'm going to start with cloud. And in this pattern, I'm using shapes. So I'm using circles to make my suns, and I'm using a bumpy line that almost looks like a bumpy rectangle to make my clouds. So I ended with cloud, I'm starting again with sun. I'm skipping over those areas where my hand is still showing and continuing my pattern. So I ended with sun, so I can start with cloud again. I can fit a sun in there. And I can fit part of a cloud in there. You might not be able to fit your whole shape, but try and fit as much as you can. So if this is my background pattern, I want something different for inside my hand. Inside my hand, I think I'm going to create a pattern using lines. So with my pencil, I'm going to draw zigzag lines. And when I color it in, I will make my pattern by having two different colors fill in my zigzag lines. So you can create patterns using shapes like I did in the background with my clouds and my sun, or you can create patterns using lines like I'm doing in this section, where I'm repeating the same line over and over again, but I'm going to color it in to create my pattern. I made sure to stop my pattern once I hit those lines that started the next section on my drawing, because I only want this pattern inside that part of the hand. Now as I go into this area, I'm going to pick a different pattern for my hand and a different pattern for my background. So maybe in my background here, I will use lines, and maybe I'll use shapes inside my hand. So I think I'm going to do a bunch of different dots, and I will color them in again to create my repeating pattern here. So I have my dots in there that I can create a pattern with, and in my background I think I'll use a line this time and do something similar like I did in this section, where maybe I'll do a wavy line. And maybe my pattern will be made by repeating different kinds of lines. So maybe I'll do a wavy line and then a dashed line. So then another wavy line and a dashed line, and over again. You can do whatever kinds of patterns and designs you would like. Just make sure you're repeating different shapes or different lines to make your patterns. And I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'm going to pick two different patterns for inside my hand and two different patterns for the background. Now that I have all of my different patterns drawn in my backgrounds and in my hand, I can go in and start to color. So you can use whatever supplies you have at home to color. I'm going to use some crayons today, and I'm either going to color in my shapes that I drew, or I'm going to color in my line areas to create a pattern. So like I said, in this area my pattern was made by my shapes and repeating my suns and my clouds over and over again. Now in these areas of my hand where I just had lines, I'm going to pick two different colors, and I'm going to create a pattern using my colors inside these lines. So maybe I'll start by coloring this area in pink, and my next line I'm going to color in blue. And then I'm going to create my pattern by repeating those colors by the next one being pink, followed by blue, over and over again until I get to the end. Sometimes it helps to outline your lines first and then color in your area so you know you're staying inside the lines as best as you can. And now I might want to do something different in my background. So maybe I want to color all of my clouds the same color and color in all of my suns the same color. Since in this section, my pattern was created with my shapes, instead of like this section where my pattern was created more with my colors. And since each of our sections is different and the way we drew our patterns is different, you don't have to color them all in the same. So in this section, maybe I just want to use different colored crayons to trace over my lines and leave the background white. That is okay. So maybe I'll pick purple and green and I'll trace all of my wavy lines with my purple crayon. I could do all of my dashed lines with a green crayon. And maybe I want to leave the background on this one white since I'm showing my pattern with my lines. And then maybe do the same thing in this section where I just outline over the top of my swirls and color in those dots but leave the background white. It's totally up to you how you want to color in your picture today. You just want to make sure you're doing your best coloring and trying your best to go inside the lines. So I'm going to color in the rest of my picture. And that is my patterned hand picture all finished. So I created patterns using repeating shapes, lines, and colors, and I created a different pattern inside each one of my shapes that I created after tracing my hand, folding my paper, and drawing those lines to split my paper into 4 sections. So I had 4 different background patterns and 4 different hand patterns to make my picture. Like I said, you can make your own patterns. Your patterns do not have to look like mine. And you can use whatever supplies you have at home to draw and color in your picture. When you're done, if you'd like to share your picture with me, you can do that through email, Google Docs, or whatever way is easiest for you. I can't wait to see the amazing work that you guys create. I hope to see you soon. Try your best, have fun, and get creative. Bye!